is the Nikon FM10, a manual 35mm SLR camera. This is the kind of camera that you'll be using in class. Let's walk through some key features. This is the shutter speed dial. It controls how long your shutter stays open. Faster speeds, like 1/500, freeze motions, however, allowing less light to pass through. Slower ones, like 1/30, lets more light in but can cause blur. Right below or beside it, you'll find the ISO setting. Make sure it matches the ISO rating of your film. To adjust it, simply pull the ring up and then turn it. This is the film advance lever. It winds the film forward to the next frame and also arms the shutter for the next shot. Right above it is your exposure count, which keeps track of how many photos you've taken. Here's a simple animation that demonstrates how this mechanism works. Whenever the film advance lever is pulled, the camera will pull exactly one frame forward, revealing an unexposed film. This is the film rewind lever. It serves two purposes. After you finish a roll of film, you can turn the lever in the direction that the arrow is pointing at to rewind the film back into its canister. You can also pull up on the lever to open the back cover to remove a film canister or to load a new roll. This is the lens. There are 3 rings on this lens. They are focus ring, focal ring, and aperture ring. The focus ring adjusts the sharpness of your object. Look through the viewfinder. When the split range finding image aligns, you've achieved focus. Right under it is the zoom ring, or the focal ring. The zoom ring controls how much you zoom in or out. On prime lenses, it's fixed, but on zoom lenses, rotating this changes your composition by narrowing or widening the field of view. Finally, there is the aperture ring. The aperture ring controls how much light enters through the lens. Smaller f numbers like f2.8 let in more light and gives you a shallower depth of field, or a blurry background. Higher f numbers like f16 lets in less light and keep your scene in focus. Now that we've covered the basics, let's move on to how to load the film. For this camera, we'll be using 35mm films. I personally love Fujifilm Superior Extra, but since it's discontinued, I'll be using the Fujifilm 400 for this demo. There are tons of film types out there, color, black and white, different ISOs, each with their own look and character. Let's get started on loading the film. So first, you will want to pull up on the film rewind lever to open up the back cover. Next up, grab the film canister. You want to align the side with the notch to the bottom of the film slot. Next, pull on the film tab and then stretch the film just enough so that the tab goes into one of the take-off spool slots. Gently advance the film using the lever and make sure the sprocket catch. And then close the back. Finally, you would want to wind and press the shutter a couple times to get the film ready on frame 1. A way to check whether if you installed your film correctly is by pulling on the film advance lever. Observe that when you pull the film advance lever, the film rewind lever will also spin. If that's the case, then you have successfully installed your film. However, if it does not spin, you might want to consider opening it back up and then reinstalling the film. Now, let's talk about the exposure triangle. There are three core elements that controls how your photo is exposed. They're shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. It's important to understand how these work together since they're the key to getting the result you want. They're not necessarily what's correct, but what feels right to you creatively. First, let's talk about shutter speed. Shutter speed controls how long your shutter stays open. A fast shutter, like 1/500 or 1/1000 of a second, freezes motions. They're great for capturing actions or handheld shots in bright light. A slower shutter like 1/30 or 1/8 lets more light in, but also introduces motion blur. That can be a creative tool. Think about light trails or smooth water, or something to avoid depending on your intent. Next, let's talk about aperture. Aperture controls the size of the opening in your lens. It is literally how wide the lens opens to let light through. A large aperture like f2.8 or f1.8 gives you a shallow depth of field, meaning your subject is sharp but the background blurs out. A small aperture like f11 or f16 keeps more of your scene in focus and is often used in landscape photography. But again, there is no right choice. It depends on the feel you're going for. Lastly, let's talk about ISO. ISO is your film's sensitivity to light. Lower ISO like 100 or 200 is less sensitive. It gives you a cleaner image and produces finer grains. Higher ISO like 800 or 1600 is more sensitive but introduces more grain or noise. Some people like the gritty look, others prefer clean images, and it is completely up to your vision. And that concludes today's video. Thanks for watching.